So first now, if you show your rulers on this particular one, you'll notice that this file is awfully large. So, it's over 26 inches. So we're going to adjust this down. And here's how you do it. You go to Image, and you go to Image Size, right? And because our image is bigger than we need it to be and our resolution is lower than we want it to be, we're going to unclick this sample image box. And now watch what happens when I drop one of the widths, and I'll do the largest width, I'll drop to 10. So you guys can do that too. So we end up with a resolution of 190. So as the size dropped down, the ratio of the resolution can go up. And that's how you do it. Now, if the picture isn't big, you don't want to just type in a higher resolution because it's not going to look good. The computer can't invent pixels, but it can shrink down and raise resolution. So you'll notice once you say OK, the document size is not going to look like it changed at all, right? Didn't get any bigger. And that's because my resolution went up with that ratio. But now when I look at the inch size of this, it is now 10 inches. So that's a thing that you can do if you open a picture that happens to be bigger. You can also, of course, open a new empty file and drag your pictures to it. And that's a good way to go too. All right, so with this first thing, let's flip our rabbit so it's going in the same direction as our dog. So we're going to go to the rabbit. We're going to do Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. Okay, next, let's go ahead and let's use the Quick Mask on our rabbit. So we're going to use a normal brush. Oops. And we're going to use our black paint. And we're going to paint that rabbit. Make sure your opacity is 100. And I would go with a brush that's also has a hard edge. And you don't necessarily need all of the rabbit, so just grab his ears and his face, and then a big portion of his neck. And you want a big portion because you want to be able to blend. So you're going to blend the rabbit's neck into the dog's neck. Okay, so we're not going to cut off just to cut his head, because if you do that, it's going to be way too hard to get it to blend. So I'd say at least this much neck. It's probably more than I need, but it's better to have more than less. And then you can fill, and just make sure you fill it in. Okay, 100% opacity and flow on the brush, or you're going to end up with a really faded out rabbit. If you get more than you need, I actually had started to grab this, I'll just erase. If you have too much background, you can go in and just touch it up. Then click out of Quick Mask, and I'll actually click back in because I see I missed a piece. Oh, oops. It's black. Black puts back, white takes away. Okay, so we click out of Quick Mask, and you can kind of look at it. If there's parts that look like maybe you should fix, you can just go back in. I'm going to actually, oops, I'm going to try to get some of this to go away. It's a little too much edge. And then I'll get back out. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to select the inverse, just like yesterday. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to refine the edge. And our goal is to get some soft bunny fur without getting too much background. You can try Smart Radius, and that actually looks pretty good. So I don't even think I'm going to brush. You could feather if you want or shift the edge. And then let's just go ahead and we probably should have moved and sized the bunny first, but so let's actually just say new layer. Don't do layer mask, just do new layer for this, and OK. Because then we'll size our rabbit, and then we'll end up putting a mask on him. So we're going to use both kinds of masking. We'll use the quick mask to cut out. We're going to use the layer mask to blend. But first, before we ever start blending, we're going to adjust the size, and then we're going to adjust the color. So when you guys look at this rabbit, does it look like it's warmer than the dog or cooler than the dog? Yeah, it's fur, it's white like the dog, but it's kind of a cream color. So let's cool down our rabbit so that it fits into the environment of the dog, because we're not going to cut the dog off the grass, we're going to leave it. So we want to adjust the rabbit. So to do that, that's image, adjustment, and photo filter. And then choose a cooling filter. I like the number 82 cooling, the third one down. Now don't say OK because it's too blue. So you really don't want your rabbit to be bluer than the dog. You just want it to be less warm. So drop your density down until it looks like the shadows on the rabbit are matching the shadows on the dog. And you know, it helps if you click and unclick the preview button to kind of get a sense of, hey, am I making this better or worse with what I'm doing? So I'm actually using about a density of 13 as opposed to the default 25. And I'll say OK. All right, now rather than make the rabbit bigger, let's make the dog a bit smaller so that it fits. So go ahead and unlock your dog layer by double-clicking it, and then Command-T, right, free transform, and hold the corner, hold Shift so you don't warp your dog. But let's shrink him down a bit. That also gives us room to place our rabbit. And you know, you can make your rabbit a little bit bigger. I'm going to Command-T him. So I'm going to kind of get them both to kind of come together. And I'm going to place them. So that looks pretty good. Now I am going to have to do some cloning on the background because notice the dog's nose and the dog's ears are sticking out. So that's all I'm going to clone is just those little bits. I also could try to clone the fence up, but it's kind of hard to get the texture to stay the same. Here's one trick that will work on this fence. What I'm going to do is go to the background layer, and I'm going to grab a chunk of the fence with the rectangle tool. And I can even go all the way across here, like so. Now I'm going to transform, Command-T, and I'm just going to grab the top, and I'm not going to hold Shift because I'm actually warping. I'm going to drag that up. It's not a perfect solution, but it's kind of an easy solution. It's a little blurry, but that fence is blurry anyway, so that's one way to kind of do it just so that you don't have to try to clone that fence. Next thing we're going to do is clone out the pieces of the dog head that's in the way and, you know, making it look like the rabbit head doesn't belong. Make sure you're on the dog layer because that's what you're cloning. Choose the clone tool. Make sure it's set to current layer so that you're not, cloning any rabbit, all you're trying to do is put grass and the bushes over the dog's ear and nose. So I'm going to option click, and I'm just going to clone out the pieces that are going to cause me problems. Get that ear cloned out. I might try to grab like areas where the fence and the bushes are kind of showing, like where it's growing up the fence or next to the fence, just to kind of make it believable. And if you do grab any of the fence, just align it before you start painting so that it doesn't look fake. So there I go now. And it looks like I have an ear right here to deal with, and then maybe just the back of his neck a little bit. So we'll keep going. So I'm going to grab some fence up here, and then I'm going to try to keep it nice and straight as I clone down. And I'll also get where his neck is. Yeah, and you don't have to do much cloning. So notice all I did was just hide out those pieces that were sticking out. After you have the area cloned, then the next thing you're going to want to do is adjust dark and light. And right now on my little rabbit, notice that the dog's neck has a highlight and the rabbit's neck has a shadow. So I'm going to adjust the darkness of the rabbit's neck. I'm going to lighten it up a bit. I'm going to try to make it so that it's really easy to blend. There's a reason it's a white rabbit on a white dog, right? Because if it was a brown rabbit trying to get on, trying to get that to look good on a white dog, it would be pretty impossible. So when you pick your animals, if you're going with a squirrel owl, you want a brown squirrel with a brown owl. Try to keep them similar, and so that you have less work to do. So the tool that I'm going to use to lighten is, if you're on your toolbar on the right side, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tools down. It's the dodge tool. Dodge lightens, burn darkens. The sponge will remove color saturation. So if you have a really bright pink and you paint with the dodge, the sponge, you can lighten the saturation. You can also saturate more. So you have a really light pink and you want to make it really vivid, you can paint with that. But in this case, let's use dodge. And then you can adjust it to be on highlights and midtones. You can adjust the exposure. I'm going to use a nice big brush like this, and I'm just going to tap the very edge of the rabbit. Do be sure that you're on the rabbit. I just actually messed up because I was on the dog. So I'm going to go to the rabbit layer, and I'm just going to lightly tap it just to lighten it a bit. Just going to make my job easier when I blend. Okay, so that once again is dodge tool. So once I've done that, now I'm going to put my mask on, my layer mask, okay, not quick mask. Remember, quick mask was to select. The layer mask lets me blend things and hide things, like we blended the baby's face into the pear. And so once we put a mask on, our normal brush will let us blend, and we want black paint to remove. So we're going to pick the normal brush, black paint. I'm going to go in and I'm going to set my brush to be soft when I blend, but before I do that, I'm going to remove this chunk of the rabbit's back where it doesn't blend into the dog. So I actually want the brush to be hard while I do that. And then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just so that it's easier to do. And I'm just going to try to keep it nice and straight. Blend that out. Remember, white will put back. So if you mess up and you don't like how it looks, just go back to white and you can put back. So just get that neck done. You don't want a soft brush for this because it would look blurry, right? And you can kind of decide what you want the neck to look like. If you want it to curve a little. Actually, if I do that, I'll have to clone a little more. I'm going to just put it up a little higher, like that. So once you have the neck done, then now we want a really nice soft brush. So I'm going to drop it down to maybe 30, 40 or so. I'm going to drop my opacity and my flow way down to 18 or 19, okay? Because I want to paint really slowly to blend this. I'm going to switch to black because black is going to hide the rabbit. And I'm going to make the brush big. And this is one trick. If the brush is small, it's really hard to blend. A nice big brush at really low opacity and really low flow will let you really easily blend in. And I'm just going to tap a few times, trying to get rid of lines. Be sure you're on your mask. Okay, you don't want to be on the picture itself. You need to be on the mask. And you're just going to tap until any lines are gone. The less work you have to do, the closer you get it so that they're similar by adjusting color and light and dark, the better. And that's all there is to it on this. You know, if you take too much off, remember, go in and switch to white. Like right now, I removed too much of the top of his neck so I can see the dog underneath. I'm just going to put it back. So I'm going to white. I'll use a small brush for this part. And I'll just get it solid again. Once I'm done with that, the last part, I'm going to crop this picture because I don't want to have all this extra. It doesn't look good. So crop tool, third tool down on the left. And I'm just going to grab from one corner to the other. And then I'll click the check mark. And then I'm ready to name it. Save it, last name, first name, EX13, and you're good.